Welcome to the Program Design Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and online experts. Whether you're looking to create your first ever group coaching program or scale your current offer for more freedom, revenue, and consistent income, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies and encouragement mixed with a bit of manifestation and intuition to help you grow and design a program you absolutely love. Let's dive in. Why, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am so thrilled you're here. In this episode, I am going to be diving into why I changed the name of the podcast, which I'm so thrilled to share with you, and what learnings you can take from this in your business too. Because I know if you're like many of the entrepreneurs that I speak to, sometimes we can really get caught up in overthinking or feeling stuck in all the decisions that we need to make in our business. And I really want to encourage you with this week's episode. But before we dive in, I just want to set the scene because I know not everyone listening to the podcast is a mom, but a lot of my audience are. And I just want to set the scene for how I am recording this podcast. This is especially going to be relevant for you if you're a mom like me, but even if you aren't and you're balancing multiple responsibilities, you might relate to this. So I am determined to get a podcast episode out each week, right? And I have got to say, things are going really well in the business. We're making more sales. I have more and more clients. Clients are doing so well. But my client delivery, my calls are taking up so much of my time at the moment. And we're creating new systems. It's going to be fine. We're working it out. But right now, it's a really busy season in the business. And so it's a great problem to have. But that means that right now it is 4:45. My oldest has just run off to soccer with my husband. He is the coach. And I have my youngest at home making rainbow looms. And I'm recording this podcast. And it is getting dark, so there's no way I'm going to be adding video to this podcast episode. I have almost finished latte from Starbucks at the moment that I am drinking. And even though it is very close to 5 o'clock, my cutoff time for my lattes, but I'm making it happen. I am bound and determined to record this podcast episode today for you so that it can get out on time. And later, I will get back to batching my podcasts. Thank you to Rebecca, who edits these podcast episodes for me. I'm not as on it as I would like to be. Eventually, I'll get back to batching, but it's a busy season in the business, and I am still determined to stay consistent with the things that really matter, including this podcast episode. So let this be your encouragement. If there's something that you're doing in your business and you're like, oh, I don't have the time, or it's not the perfect time, or I'm worried that I won't be able to make it happen. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just go for it. So that's my encouragement for you today before we jump into this week's episode. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome. But if you aren't, you will likely know that up until now, the podcast has been called the Align and Inspire podcast. And while I liked this name, I have been feeling an evolution for a little while. So the reason I called it Align and Inspire when I first started the podcast, this is episode 70, so many episodes ago at this point. The reason I started it as Align and Inspire was because my level of knowledge at the time of podcasts was that a podcast is more of a nurturing strategy. It's not a growth strategy. So what I mean by that is you need a strategy to get in front of your ideal people, an attraction strategy, and you need a way for them to get to know you, and that's a nurturing strategy. So for example, if I go on YouTube and I use really good SEO, strong SEO, like a search engine optimization, someone can discover my YouTube. But say you were to go on YouTube and you search someone and you stumble upon their YouTube channel, that's your attraction strategy, or Facebook ads, or whatever it is. And then from there, you need a nurture strategy where those people who just discover you get to know you and you build that know, like, trust factor. So for me, that's what the podcast does. It's building up connection with you, my listeners, my community, and it's a way to really connect to me and get to know me, right? To me, it was not a growth strategy. So I didn't really worry much about the name of the podcast. So I thought, I want to name it something broad so that it feels like I like the words of it. And it feels like my business can evolve with the name and I'm not pigeonholed in one direction. Kind of like how people don't like to niche down. You don't want to stay pigeonholed in one direction. But since then, because I've obviously been doing it for a little while now, I've evolved and I've learned more. And while my podcast isn't maybe like a top of funnel strategy where people are going to be searching a lot of my podcast, I know now from learning more about podcasts that first off, sometimes people actually do search your podcast. And maybe you're listening, you stumbled upon my podcast like that, or people recommend podcasts. And that's the one that I'm really thinking about. Yes, people can search my podcast and I want it to be understandable. But the other reason is because people recommend podcasts and I want my podcast to be really clear for anyone new to my podcast what it is about. Align and inspire is very vague. And actually, what I've learned from other podcast experts that I've been learning from, there are a lot of podcasts that feature the word align. So I don't want to use the word align. I want it to be really clear what it is that I do. And my unique kind of angle in the online world is I help you with program design. I absolutely still help you with marketing and sales and funnel strategy and all of those elements, the mindset, all of those pieces of your online business and creating group programs. Signature programs is my favorite. But the thing that makes me different is I also teach you about strong program design, making sure that it gives you your clients a really strong result, that it is scalable, that you don't sacrifice your client experience for growth. And I keep hearing about these people who do similar things to what I do, and they do group coaching and they call it group coaching and they create like Q&A calls. And then people just need to bring their questions to the call. And for me, that's not enough. That is not enough. It needs to have a path for your clients to follow. So you need a curriculum, a signature process that you take people through, and that is specifically created for your ideal client and what they need, what mistakes they're making, what struggles they have. It's not just all of your expertise. It's the right pieces for the right person at the right time. And so for me, that's really, really important. And so I also teach program design. And so I've been thinking about it for a little while, and that's the area that I really, really want to focus in on. It still allows me to do all the other pieces of business that I love. Like I love supporting my clients with their mindsets, with expanding their mindsets and abundance. And also I love teaching marketing strategies and funnels and all of that kind of stuff. But I know that the core piece is always going to be program design. And that is why I wanted to call my podcast that name. I wanted it to be something that people really understand the core of what I do. That is the piece that I think is unique to me. I think there are other people that do it really well as well, of course. But that is my unique edge, is that I love program design. One of the things that I teach are feedback loops. So specific ways that you can check in and see where people are at and see what they need from you. And then you put it back into your program design, like really refining your program design, making sure you have delivery systems so that you can grow it well and not get bogged down, making it scalable. Like I love all of those pieces. And that's the thing that I really want to be known for. And so that's why I've decided to change the name of the podcast from Align and Inspire to the Program Design Podcast. So in this episode, I wanted to share why I decided to change the podcast and how this line of thinking can support you in your business. Because one of the struggles that I see my clients going through is sometimes, and I'm going to share 3 main tips for you on this. The first is sometimes coaches tend to get stuck in the idea phase of your next offer. Like you might be thinking, oh, I know I want to go in this direction and this, like I could do this niche, or I could think about this offer for someone. Maybe I want to do more of a membership. Maybe I want to do some sort of course. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do that. And the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is likely you probably have a lot of fantastic ideas. And what I notice is that people really get stuck in the idea phase, even like naming their program. Sometimes people get stuck in naming their program. And when I say around getting stuck in the naming, is like, this is a very small detail. You can always change the name. You can always change the name. But the big thing that I will, if you've been in my world for any length of time, you've heard me say this, is that action creates clarity. I would not have gotten myself in the rooms to, like right now, it is on my list. My next business building goal is to get onto new podcasts. And as I was learning about how to guest speak on more podcasts, I noticed how important it is as I go to guest speak on podcasts to know what the podcast is about really easily and clearly. And that's why I wanted to change my name, right? But I wouldn't have discovered that had I not realized that I love podcasting. It is my kind of platform of choice, and I want to get onto more podcasts. I've improved my speaking. I continue to hone in on my podcast strategy. And so now I know because of that I want to change my podcast name. But if I had stayed stuck in what is the name that is going to last me forever in my podcast, I may not have named it and I wouldn't have gotten started. And I have had many clients who work with me because they listened to my podcast. And so I would have stayed stuck in that naming phase. So if you get stuck in that idea phase, what I want to encourage you is that action creates clarity. As you take action, even if it's not perfect, you will get more clarity and more momentum and more direction as you take action. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always change it. You can always change it. Now, if you are going to name your podcast, the name of your program, any kind of creative endeavor project that you are doing in your business, like I said, oftentimes coaches tend to get stuck in naming things. So the thing that I would love for you to remember here is that clarity is more important than creativity. Clarity over creativity. Sometimes, recently, I've been helping some of my clients name their programs. And when you go to name a program, first of all, it's not that big a decision. You can always change it. But the other thing about naming the program is sometimes they'll name it something that's really personal to them and it's really meaningful for them, but no one else knows what you're talking about. For example, my first ever business was called in French, Parfaitement Bilingue or Perfectly Bilingual. The reason I liked this name was because I'm on this lifelong quest to become as perfectly bilingual as possible. My true goal in life, I love it when I speak French and people don't know what my first language is. I want it to be that strong, right? And I was creating resources for French immersion teachers that help their students become stronger bilingually. So I decided, I want to that parfaitement bilingue, becoming perfectly bilingual really appealed to me. So I called it Parfaitement Bilingue, perfectly bilingual. The only thing is no one else hears that story. No one else knows about that. And it's somewhat related to what I did. But then I met other creators at the time. And there was one called For French Immersion. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a boring name. Do you know how many people search French immersion on Google, on different platforms where you can buy teaching resources? You know who comes up first? Hers. It was so clear for search engine optimization. And it's so clear what it is that she does. She creates resources for French immersion teachers. And so it is really important that your name be really clear and explain what it does. So, for example, in the business industry, so I have Signature Program Design. Signature Program Design is my main program, and that's what helps you refine and scale your signature program. Now, I have created a first step program, let's say, called Pilot Program Design. And that helps you create your first ever group program that you evolve and scale over time into your signature program. But in the first version of it, you create your pilot. And when I was thinking about the name for it, first I wanted to be on brand with program design, but I was thinking about what to call it. And at one point I wanted to call it Beta Program Design, which is still kind of But the thing about beta program design is most entrepreneurs, some of them know that concept of creating your beta, but not everyone has. And if you're new to business, you may not have heard of the concept of having a beta round, but you likely have heard of a pilot episode or a pilot program. That makes perfect sense to people. You don't have to explain it. And so I called it Pilot Program Design because it's I'll help you design your pilot version. It's really clear and it is results focused. It tells you what you're going to do in the program. So if you are thinking about the name of your program or the name of a podcast or anything like that, think about what it does, make it results focused, and make it really clear. This is what it's going to be about. Even if it's not super exciting or creative, You can be creative in your content, but the name should be really clear so people know it's for them. And then the last piece that I wanted to share on this around this concept of changing the name of the podcast and what you can take in your business is around the manifestation and identity level. So I think it can be really powerful to decide in your business that you are stepping into the next version of you or the next identity of you. So one of the tools that I choose regularly is I visualize on a regular basis the next version of me, the next thing that I'm creating, whatever my visualization is. So one of the visualizations that I bring people through often, and you can do it right now, is imagining if you're creating a program or scaling your program, imagining the faces of the people that you have in your program. Maybe it's the first 5, maybe you're scaling it to 25, imagining their faces on Zoom or imagining them in a live event with you, like really, really picturing it, because your mind doesn't know the difference between something that is imagined and something is real, your subconscious mind. So you can train your mind to normalize that for yourself. Like, this is what I'm creating. Similarly, you can decide at points in your business to be like, I'm stepping into this new identity and I'm making this shift to be like, to show it to myself, to the universe, however you see it, that this is the next iteration of my business. Like, I'm stepping into that next version of me. And so for me, changing the name of this podcast, for me, is a declaration that, like, yes, my first goal was to start creating my podcast, make it consistent, have people discover my podcast and work with me, which I've done. But now I'm at a place where I'm like, you know what? It's time to grow my podcast. Yes, I have listeners for sure, but I know I want to grow the podcast, the number of people that are listening, and I want to bring in more reviews, all of that stuff now that I know I have a consistent podcast presence. And so for me, it's very symbolic, or it's like this identity level or a manifestation to say, okay, I'm changing the name because I'm stepping into this new identity. And Align and Inspire was the old identity, and the signature program or your program design podcast, that is what I'm stepping into next. That's the next iteration of the podcast. And this is what it's like. It's declaring to the universe that that's the next identity that I'm stepping into. And so for you, I wonder if there's something symbolic that you can do in your business, whether you're creating your first program, whether you're growing the next one. Is like, what can you do to be like, I'm ready for the next step in my business? Like, for example, some of my clients in signature program design, one of them, she was worried about visibility that can come up for a lot of people. And then recently she applied to speak at an event. And that's showing to the universe, like, she's ready for the next step. She's ready for more visibility. So even whether or not she gets that speaking gig or not, she's showing herself and the universe that that's what she's opening up to. So she will be open to more speaking events, and she's putting that into motion. And then eventually she will get that speaking, either that speaking event or others. Like, she's creating that momentum in her business. She's stepping that forward and declaring it through that symbolic action. Similarly, like, I had another client recently who decided to go to an event, like a conference. She had a booth. She's creating her first program, and she put it into motion. Like, this is what I'm creating. She even put money on the line to have that booth, and she connected with 20 people who are interested in joining her program, like, just like that. And so she's stepping into this next identity. And even when you think about it, like, for her to go out and say that this is the program that I'm creating and this is what I'm stepping into, it didn't exist before. But when she decided, okay, I'm going to this event, I'm booking this booth, I'm speaking to people, I'm speaking it into existence, she stepped into that new identity and new things are happening. And now she's going to be able to fill her program. I'm so excited for her. And I'm so confident that she'll be able to do that because she's already created such strong connections with people. And so I wonder, what can you do to bring in some of that manifestation, that next level energy into your business? What's one symbolic step that you can take to say to yourself or the universe, this is where I'm going next. This is what I'm creating. This is my next level, my next identity that I'm stepping into. So I am stepping into the new name, the new cover art of Program Design, the Program Design podcast. Soon I'm going to be getting some new photos, but one thing at a time because I've already got a very full schedule. but the Program Design Podcast. That's how I'm stepping into the next identity and version of myself in my business. So I would love to encourage you to do the same. So let's do a quick recap about today's episode. So I've changed the name, the Program Design Podcast. In this episode, we chatted about why I decided to change it and why I wanted it to be something that people could discover and know what it is about right away. It is going to help you with your creating your program. So marketing strategies, sales strategies, program design strategies, and also a lot of the alignment, mindset, intuition, because I love to combine the feminine and the masculine in my work. And so that is what this podcast is going to be about. We talked about how sometimes coaches can get stuck in the idea phase of whatever new thing you're creating. And instead of feeling stuck in the idea and finding the right perfect idea, action creates clarity. We talked about some simple tips to name your own podcast or program, remembering that clarity is more important than creativity and making it result focused so people know what it's about and what's in it for them, and not about a special memento for you, but something that's what's in it for them. And then what it means as a manifestation or an identity level to show the universe that you are ready for the next version of you, the next step in your business, and taking that one symbolic step that's going to bring that into your existence, into your life, into your business. So I trust that this episode was helpful for you. I would love to hear from you. If you have any feedback about the name or the direction, please send me a message on Instagram or leave a comment, a review on your podcast listening app of choice. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you on the next episode of the Program Design Podcast.